Welcome to the National Crime Victim Law Institute's Quick Tool on Restitution. The goal of this video is to provide an overview of issues and practical tips that relate to restitution to encourage conversation and thought on this important topic. Let's start with the basics. What is restitution?
Restitution is money paid by a convicted person to their victim or victims for economic damages suffered as a result of the offense. In every jurisdiction, crime victims have either constitutional or statutory rights to restitution. Restitution may be ordered as part of a sentence, as a condition of parole, or as a part of probation.
I can't afford to wait until after the conviction to get help with some of these bills. Am I forced to pay out of pocket for everything until then?
Restitution doesn't happen until after a conviction. But every state also has a crime victim compensation program, which is money that is paid by the state where the crime occurred to offset some costs of the offense. Every state has different eligibility requirements and expenses that can be paid by its victim compensation program. And victim compensation funds don't require a conviction to access them, so it is a good resource to check out as well, since it may be able to get money to you to cover some of your expenses more quickly than restitution would.
The crime cost me a lot of money, from bus passes to medical costs and missed work. Can I get everything I lost ordered in restitution?
One of the goals of restitution is making victims financially whole, at least as far as possible, in the aftermath of crime. Restitution is generally limited to economic losses, so things like pain and suffering or punitive damages are not costs that can be covered in restitution. These costs generally require civil lawsuits. Depending on where you are located in the country, some jurisdictions require that courts order restitution for the full amount of a victim's losses. Others either don't make a requirement of full restitution or allow for a judge to order restitution in an amount less than the total amount of a victim's loss. In Oregon, for example, the court must order the full amount of a victim's economic loss in restitution unless the victim consents to a lesser amount.
Is there anything else that I should know?
Every jurisdiction is different, but generally speaking, restitution is frequently ordered for past and future medical expenses, past and future mental health expenses, costs of repairing damage to a home, car, or other property, both past and future lost income, costs of transportation, childcare expenses, funeral expenses, costs of replacing property, moving or other relocation expenses, lost tuition, attorney's fees, and more. In some jurisdictions, the restitution provisions may list some types of expenses that can be recovered in restitution, such as medical expenses or transportation. These are often just examples of the types of expenses that can be ordered and don't necessarily limit a victim from requesting other losses in restitution. In other jurisdictions, such as in Oregon, which does not currently allow restitution for future lost income, specific narrow categories of losses might be excluded. But generally, we should think broadly about losses when preparing to request restitution, and then leave it to the court to determine if something is not allowed.
If I got some money from the state victim compensation program for some of my doctor bills or other costs, does this mean I don't qualify for restitution?
Just because you receive some money from a state victim compensation program doesn't necessarily mean that you don't qualify for restitution at all. If some of your medical bills were already paid by the state, the victim compensation program itself might seek restitution from the defendant to repay the state for those costs. And you may still be eligible to receive restitution for your other expenses, including any copays or other bills that the victim compensation program didn't cover.
I'm glad I might recover some of this, but it is a lot to think about when everything else is going on. How do I do this?
Starting early and writing down all of the things you were spending money on because of the crime is a great idea. This is a restitution log of sorts. When asking for restitution, it works most smoothly if you have receipts or other documentation to support each of your losses. So putting receipts together with your log in one place as you go can help. But if you haven't done that yet, you and your attorney or advocate can work through it together.
My receipts and other documents have a lot of personal information on them. I don't want anyone to see that, so maybe I shouldn't ask for restitution.
Personal information such as names, addresses, and credit card numbers can be redacted, which means they can be blacked out or otherwise hidden from receipts before they are submitted to protect your privacy.
Okay, so my next question is how I ask for restitution. Is that something I need to do?
So there are a couple of common ways of requesting restitution depending on what jurisdiction you are in. In most places, you can ask the prosecutor or your system-based advocate to request restitution on your behalf. Many prosecutors' offices have a form that you can fill out and submit that can help with this. In some jurisdictions, you might be asked to describe your losses to whoever prepares the pre-sentence report for the judge. Some survivors may want to file a restitution memorandum describing their losses or have their own attorney file one. And sometimes a victim or their own attorney might request restitution directly from the court. There can be deadlines for requesting restitution, so it's important to find out what those are.
I am going to talk with my advocate more about this, and I might also see if they can connect me with an attorney to help me with some of this too.
This concludes our Restitution Quick Tool. We encourage practitioners and victims to discuss restitution early and often in the criminal justice process. Because this video focused on providing an introduction to restitution, it did not cover all restitution-related topics. Visit NCVLI's website for additional resources, including a number of articles in our online victim law library that focus on restitution, additional toolkit and quick tool videos addressing a myriad of victims' rights-related topics, and sample restitution-related checklists and other materials. Practitioners can also visit our website to request technical assistance with specific questions relating to restitution or other issues that impact victims of crime. And consider becoming a member of NAVRA, the National Alliance of Victims' Rights Attorneys and Advocates, for on-demand access to sample pleadings and case summaries of decisions on a variety of victims' rights topics from jurisdictions around the country. Thank you for joining us.